Hi everyone and welcome to today's workshop for Let's Boogie, a comprehensive set of fun exercises to play the real thing, written by me. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I'd like to cover are the types of scales that I'm going to use in this book. I'm going to be covering 5-finger scales from G major, C major, D major, and A major, both hands, and as well as pentatonic scales. That's for the same 4 keys, and the power chords that go along with that. We'll look at a few right-hand exercises that I developed, and left-hand exercises for the boogie pattern. And then I'll mention some coordination games and share the final score. Okay, why scales and power chords? Well, outlining these scales can help students learn the correct finger placements and patterns necessary to play this style of music. This is very different than, say, classical music. I would say this is boogie woogie or rhythm and blues style, closer to that. I'm not originally trained in that area, but I became interested in it later. So the 5-finger scales we use, like I said, are major and minor. So like C major, minor, G major, G minor, D major, D minor, and A major and minor. That goes along with pentatonic. We'll be studying the major pentatonic scales for those same keys, minor and blues. And from my perspective, I find that it's really helpful when a student studies these scales before playing something that requires them to sort of play in that same area of the piano or those same notes. So that's a little bit of what that starts off as. And then the power chords, when we get into the power chords, this allows students to learn the proper hand shapes to be able to play not only the triad, but an inversion of that same triad. And then we'll take these same concepts for even notes, even eighth notes, versus swing. So I would have them practice a 5-finger scale as even, plus the arpeggio, and swing. So we're going to swing that same scale. And that's just following the long, short pattern. Long, short, long. All right. Next thing. Cool. Let me make sure I didn't skip any slides here. Okay. So these power chords, this one, for example, is one that I would have them study because you see it's kind of unusual how it goes from 1, 4, and then 2 and 5. Why? Well, I find that this piece uses a lot of 2, 5, and then going up to 3. And so I found that hand shape to be quite helpful to go from 2, 5 to 1, 3, 5. With left hand, it's good to know the inversions here, G major, C major, 6, 4, but to also have 2 able to be on D as well, because we're going to have this pattern. And that requires the thumb to be on E, the step above. So it's good to get used to that shift right there. Okay, so let's listen to what this sounds like a little bit. And that's kind of where I have them go into the rest of the piece. This is like an integrated power chord study, so it's kind of like part of the song, but also a short exercise. All right. The first exercise after the scales and power chords is intervallic content. So reading intervals of a second, And I have them chunk it into 2 measures at a time, so it's easy to digest and read as well. So 2 measures here, a step higher, 2 measures here. So they can easily guess this pattern. It might be challenging to go from 4-5 to 5-4, but they should just know that it's reversed here. So instead of 4-5, then it goes to 5-4. Let's listen to a little bit of this one. This is at 120 BPM. It's a bit faster than I would expect them to start it at. Great, and at the end there where they play C for 4 beats where it says shift, that's when I'll have them shift to G major, hands are 2 octaves apart, and then to D major, back to 1 octave apart, and then to A major, back to 2 octaves apart. The reason I do that is because that's how the piece is written. It kind of jumps around a little bit. It's good for the left hand to get used to those shifts. So those 4 keys again, just to be consistent. Next is thirds, and this one I have them do as both duples and triplets. The triplets aren't shown here, but I can show them over here. Are actually, no, they're uploaded. Okay, so they're not here, but I did upload that as triplets as well. So we have duple, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and again, I just chunk it into 1 measure at a time, 2 beats each, right there. For the triplet section, what I did was just wrote it in 12/8, and so now they're going to repeat 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 2 4 2 4. So there's an extra note there for the triplet. That's going to be very useful when we get to something like when we have to kind of tremolo, add a tremolo between E and G. So that's why we practice these thirds in this way. Next is fourths. And I have them just practice this slow scale. And it repeats. Sometimes if they miss 4, I'll point it out that it repeats. And I'm just playing right hand now. And then the second part here, then I start to add a little bit of rhythmic variation. So just going through the different intervals. In this document too, I added the idea of fourths surrounded by, say, a triad, but you can still hear the interval of a fourth. That's in the document on Pro as well. Okay. Cool. Oh wait, I missed one. So let's go back. The last one that I added was escalator intervals. And this one kind of helps them understand both fifths and sixths at the same time, just as steps and skips. As a stretch to 5 on A, and I also wrote it for the left hand to improve the mobility, starting on A. Same thing, stretching down a sixth. The reason I have them started on A is so that they're familiar with the hand shape with 5 on C and 2 on G and 1 on A. Going back to that pattern, which we'll get to in a second. The escalator intervals here helps the student learn a little bit more about the blues scale in context of this scale. It'll be easier once they practice, say, C minor blues. But after that, at measure 11, we have 1 to 2, and then 2 is adjusted to E flat. You see that there? And then 3 will go to E natural. And we're just climbing up the intervals to 6th and back. We're going to go to E flat first. 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's how that will look there. And I go through every key, so it'll be C, G, D, and A. Okay, let's go over the... Okay. Alright, I think I missed another one. It skipped forward, so let's go back. Okay, now this page is first. We'll go back. So the first thing I have them do is tap the eighth notes as even eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and repeat and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I have them swing the eighth notes, tapping and counting left hand only. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You get the idea. So what I find also to be helpful right here is when they play this on the keyboard. So here, from 4 is a skip. They need to note that. 5 to 4 to 2, all is skip. Unusual because we don't usually play in this hand position right away. And then I have them practice, after we play this even. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Then what I have them do is practice the drop from left hand 2, 5. 2, 5, because I know that's a hard drop right there. It's kind of difficult to get used to that, so I find that isolating the 2-5 movement is useful. Practicing this as a fast rhythm is useful as well. 2, 5, 2, 5. It's not meant to be literal. I might go back and change that exercise right there. It's not meant to be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... That's the way that it's written, but it's kind of like an excerpt of how it appears in the score over the bar line, for example. And the next thing that we go to is tapping and counting left hand only here. Even notes first. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and repeat and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I would have them reduce the counting to 1, 3, 4 and 1, 3, 4 and 1, 3, 4 and 1, 3, 4 and 1. And that's swung. Alright, nice. So let's hear what that sounds like a little bit out of the MIDI right here. And this is swung, of course. Alright, great. And the next thing we're going to look at is going back to the right hand. We're going to reduce the counting to, not reduce the counting first, sorry. We're going to tap and count right hand rhythm first. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4, for example. I did that a little fast. Now we're going to swing the eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just so they get used to that. The and has more impetus. Let's play and repeat this 4-bar example. So now we're going to tap and count the right hand rhythm, which is the same as the first example. I'm going to have them do that. And then to play the right hand rhythm and count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and repeat. So I'd have them repeat those 2 lines. This 5-2 to adjust it to B flat is a variation on what I did before. So instead of having just G beforehand and then going to a third, I'm having them adjust 2 to B flat and then go up to 3 on B natural and 1. So that's meant to be like and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can also change that to A. Makes it easier. Okay. Okay, so coordination before getting to the real song. Here I have them tap this 4 times. Together, right, left, together, together, right. And sometimes it's like, okay, wake up our brain. Let's start. 1, sorry, not counting. Together, right, left, together, together, right. Together, right, left, together, together, right. Together, right, left, together, together, right. So this is what this rhythm looks like written out. No melody or bass line, just try tapping and playing these. So I would have the student practice this. If they can practice this hands separately first, that's great. And then hands together. The point is to work on this coordination right here. Because this rhythm, I find, is probably the most difficult for students to get. But once they apply this coordination game right here, tapping exercise, together, right, left, together, together, right, then they get it. Okay? I did write it out in 12/8, though I got some feedback that this was less helpful because it was confusing as to how many beats were in the measure. So that maybe needs a little more explanation. But it is compound time. It's 12/8, but we have 4 groups of 3. So it's easiest if we count it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and kind of a literal translation of what swing is. A little too sterile for me. Okay, next thing, or last thing here is Let's Boogie, the piece. So the full piece is here. And just so you can hear it, I'll start it from the beginning. Let's listen. Go back to measure 17. We're C major and G major. Same pattern, just transposed. So that's it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions or feedback, please let me know. You can always email me, and I'll be happy to respond. Thank you.